All you comic readers, and today I'm back with a new video, and especially I did this video to showcase a new edition of classics which are published by Dover Publications, and the name is Calla Edition, as you can see in this spine. And I made this video especially to showcase this edition, as this edition is not getting the love it deserves, because frankly this is an awesome treatment of a classic, and I like to call this edition Poor Man's Folio Society, since this is illustrated by Henry Kane and there's an introduction, but it cost much less than a Folio Society book. There are many other illustrations. These are not original illustrations of the book. These were previously illustrated by Henry Kane in some other old edition, 1931 or something edition, and this was reused in this book, but so awesome. Printed in this Chinese matte art paper. This is my second Calla edition. The first is Moby Dick by Herman Melville, and here this is the picture of Dorian Gray, the single novel written by Oscar Wilde. He's mostly a poems and prose and playwriter, but this is his single novel, and it's so famous as it depicts the moral correction of the man. These are the end pages, and I like this paper. This is a Chinese matte art paper, and I like the feel of this. And there is a history of the publication of picture of Dorian Gray, and here is Dorian Gray himself. And basically, this story is a story of moral corruption, my favorite types of story, because that's why I like Martin Scorsese movies, I guess. And an insightful introduction by Oscar Burdett, and there's of course a list of illustrations. All of these are in black and white, and there is also a preface by the author itself, which is also like a poem, more a poem than a preface, I guess, where he justifies. It was a very controversial novel when it was published due to its content of this moral corruption, and also somewhat homosexual relationship, I guess it is implied in this book, and I think that pricked a lot of people at this time. This was published in like 19th century or something. So, and one thing I had to say while reading this is that Oscar Wilde's writing is so cool, and you won't notice it's a classic. Actually, I don't mean disrespect, but classics are generally hard to read. Here is another illustration where Lord Henry goes to his uncle, and Lord Henry is my favorite character. Lord Henry Wharton. He's an absolute jerk, but a smooth talker who can seduce any person with their ideas, and it was sort of like Tyler Durden from Fight Club, I guess. All these end pages with all these chapter headings and the chapter endings are all so great illustrated, and there are the illustrations. It's so hard to find. Yeah, there was one illustration. I'm not showing all of it to avoid spoilers. And one thing I had to say is that the binding is somewhat tight. This binding is not as bad as it is in Moby Dick, because Moby Dick you can't get the book to stay flat any time ever. But this is as it stays, but does not stay completely flat, and there might be some shear stress to your spine, and that's bad. But all these illustrations are so great. So this is Calla edition. There's no afterward, I guess. Cost $30 only. And as for the paper, as for the cover, it's cloth bound, and as you can see here, just from putting it here, it has become a dust magnet. And one tip to collectors who are collecting such cloth bound, fine cloth bound editions, you can use a dustless rubber to get off all these little dust marks. I use that every time, and that's a small tip to collectors. Frankly, this edition deserves a lot more love, and deserves to be celebrated. They may not have many titles as like Everyman's Library. As you can see, these are some Everyman's Library editions which I have. That's Brothers Caravaggio, I think so, on this Foundation Trilogy. Okay, and the illustrator also, which is great, like Folio Society. And Dorian Gray, the first story is a classic. It's a irrefutable classic. but I didn't have a hard time reading it like some other classics, like Jane Austen, Charles Dickens, and stuff. And frankly, it's a story of how a person is a narcissist with a narcissistic attitude sees that he will age, but his paintings would not, because it is so awesome painting. And it is drawn by this friend of Lord Henry Fulton, who I said something similar here, and I think that's what is what's his character's name? He's a stupid character for Basil Hallward. Yes, his artist, he paints like an awesome picture of Dorian, and Dorian laments that he will be old and the painting will not, and so he makes a deal, and so that he will get to be immortal, and all his sins are recorded in. It's a typical story of like Faust and everything, Faust, Dr. Faustus, all that stuff, deal with the devil, not devil actually, but it's how it goes in the story of moral corruption. It's a classic. And also I had to say Calla Edition by Dover Publications deserves a lot more love. Actually, there are no YouTube reviews of this Calla Edition, as I have checked out, but there's an Instagram hashtags, and this deserves a lot more love. That's all I had to say. So check out. These are like not so pricey. Like I showed you the price. It's not so pricey. You can get many good books. There is a Hamlet, there is Tempest, there is Midsummer Night's Dream, The Lost World, Arabian Nights, Fairy Tales by Hans Christian Andersen, and there is Moby Dick, there is Picture of Dorian Gray, there is Faust, there is Pilgrim's Progress, there is Canterbury Tales. Canterbury Tales is actually a facsimile edition of this Calla. There are many more. You can go to the site, and I bought this from Amazon, but on Amazon the selection of Calla Edition is not. You can go to Bookswagon, where they have all the Calla Editions, and in India, and you can buy that. Okay, that's all I had to say for today. Thank you.